Hello everybody and welcome to the Creative Flair Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about art history and the importance of learning about art history in order to improve your own art style and learning from old masters as well. So understanding art history in itself is a very beneficial thing for any artist. When I talk about learning about art history, this doesn't necessarily mean taking a very long course or doing a university degree in art history. I'm talking more about independent learning of a subject that you should be very passionate about and you should want to learn more about. This doesn't necessarily mean you need an academic form of study around it. It's more or less just a generalized study around the history of art. Learning about art history as an artist can be so beneficial no matter what your skill level. If you are just starting out, then obviously practice makes progress and all that, but learning about the masters that came before you can jumpstart your learning progress a lot faster. You don't have to start way back from the very beginning of art, such as cave paintings and all of that. It's more or less having a generalized knowledge around art movements and art styles, such as Impressionism and some artists such as Monet, understanding where they started from and learning how they created their works, which could be so beneficial to you. So how do you go about actually learning art history? This was something I was really interested in when I was doing my college diploma, and I'm still very fascinated by art history. And I actually started a little blogging platform where I would talk about art history and little things to do with art history and stuff like that. And that's still going, and that's as a rebrand for Creative Flair, which is hopefully going to be landing soon, and everybody will be available to, but there's loads more to talk about for that at a later point. So I was homeschooled, which was an incredibly beneficial thing for me in general, because it's taught me how to learn, which sounds like a really odd thing to say, but learning how to learn is very, very important. And a lot of people don't know how to learn things because when you're in school, you're just thrown an awful lot of facts and figures and told to memorize it. Whereas for me, I was always brought up with this idea and mentality of if you have an interest or you have a passion, learn about it. And my parents were fantastic. They'd literally give me all the resources I ever needed to learn about whatever I wanted. And it was just great. So that's had a huge impact on me. So when I first started getting interested in art history, I got a book, and it's called A World History of Art, and I have that book. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, then it might be worth switching over to go and see the audio platform so you can see this massive book, which is really heavy actually, and it's around 984 pages long. And it literally starts out from cave paintings and talking about cave paintings and moves right up to contemporary art, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I'm a little bit old-fashioned towards this. I really enjoy reading from a book, and I find reading from a book actually helps me consume the knowledge a little more and a little faster compared to online articles and stuff like that. And that's mostly because I don't enjoy the way online articles are written, which is another pinpoint that I'm focusing on with the Creative Flair website and platform, whatever, and trying to come up with a way that will allow artists and people to learn faster online for everything to do with art, not just art history. But if you're wanting to learn about art history a little more, I would definitely suggest you don't have to buy a book. I mean, this thing is a little bit pricey. I got it as a birthday present, whatever. But I would strongly suggest starting out online. And one of the really good online platforms for learning about art history is Khan Academy. Many people have used this in the past to learn about all sorts of things. It's an absolutely fantastic platform, and it's mostly free, I'm pretty sure. And they've got a really good course, I think, on art history, and one of my friends started using that and recommended that to me, and it was fantastic. The other really interesting key factor around learning about art history that could benefit you is copying off of old masters. Now, art history doesn't just have to be a whole load of facts and figures that you're trying to remember about which artist painted this in what time period and what art movement and what specific style. Sure, all of that can be a little bit beneficial to you, but what's the real point of it? If you just remembering which artist painted what is a little bit pointless. Personally, it can be considered pointless. Whereas if you learn which artists did what, and you understand it, and you have an interest in it, and you understand how they created certain works, you can move forward with that. A really good point of this for understanding certain things around art history and how it can benefit you and your study and your endeavour forward towards the expanse of art knowledge would be Vermeer. So Vermeer was a Dutch painter born in 1675 in Delft, and the way art history has enabled us to learn about him and benefit other artists since is really fascinating. So a lot of people are unaware that he might have used a camera obscura in order to create his artworks and have such a level of detail. So Vermeer was quoted as the master of light and was famed for his amount of detail that he would put into his paintings with oil paints, and it was outstanding, and his works are amazing, and I've seen a couple of them in person which are absolutely mind-blowing. But it is definitely widely known and widely considered that he used a camera obscura, not necessarily to cheat, used to create his paintings, but more as a tool to help him create his artworks, which is definitely the way I would consider it. It's using a tool to help you to create your artworks. And since learning about this from art history has enabled other people to test out these methods. So there was a really interesting documentary called Tim's Vermeer, where this bloke went out and learned how to use a camera obscura as Vermeer did to recreate his own painting of the music room, which was one of Vermeer's paintings. And it's an absolutely fascinating documentary. If you ever get the chance to watch it, I'd strongly recommend it. And he actually went out and got David Hockney to attempt to use this camera obscura. And to him, it was mind-blowing, and to me, it's mind-blowing. It's fascinating. But learning about this art history method and technique made me really interested in wanting to try this and use this someday. And I spent a little bit of time working out all the mechanics of it. And I've seen a camera obscura in person in Greenwich, in London. And the way of learning about this is so beneficial to you, no matter what your skill level as an artist. The other thing about learning about art history would be the appreciation of it. Appreciating artworks isn't just for art enthusiasts or people who geek out over paintings. It can be done by anybody. And being able to appreciate the historic significance of paintings is really, really important in preserving our rich and diverse creative history as a culture and as a human race. And that goes right back to cave paintings as well, and learning about these cave paintings and understanding why they created these cave paintings. So there's a cave painting in France. I can't remember the cave system's name itself, but the people within there would actually do these handprints, and it's a very famous artwork now. And it is considered art. And essentially what they would do is they'd take all sorts of coloured stuff and charcoal and red clay, and they'd chew it up and mix it in with their saliva. And what they'd essentially do is they'd put their hand onto this wall and they would spit violently over it to create a handprint. And that's so interesting because it allows us to consider why they did this. And one really interesting thought around why they did this is to create a sense of community. And I find that so interesting and fascinating. And it's a thing I'd love to go and see in person one day. But understanding this as an artist and learning a little bit about this, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be an expert in all fields of art history and knowledge in general. Just a generalized understanding of certain periods, such as the Renaissance. Many people choose to study the Renaissance, mostly because Da Vinci painted. That was his time, that was his era of painting. And that's the era of painting in which the Mona Lisa was painted. And many people are drawn into studying certain parts of art history, primarily because some of their favourite artists painted in that period of history. And they learn about that one time era of art, which is good and can be interesting. But I would definitely recommend pursuing outside of that box of knowledge, because it goes back to that old saying, be a jack of all trades sort of thing. If you have a general understanding of different periods of art, then it allows you to expand your knowledge, your understanding, and your appreciation of different art periods and techniques and styles. And if you study different art styles, then you will undoubtedly learn about different art periods as well, and vice versa. If you learn about art movements, then you'll learn about the styles and you'll learn about the periods of art, and it all works together no matter what. So for me, for the longest time, I was not a fan of abstract art or modern or contextual artworks. And since learning more about modern art history and more contemporary art history, it's allowed me to appreciate the evolution we've gone through from cave paintings and Renaissance and Impressionistic painting right up to our current style of contextual artworks. And there's still many people that create modern artworks, and there's many people that create realistic artworks and artworks that Vermeer would have done, and all sorts of different styles, and people still paint in Impressionism. But today, in our current modern era, everything we create is considered contemporary artworks, and everything post World War II is considered contemporary art, but it's not considered contextual artwork, because contextual artwork is the style that it's created in, not the movement. The movement currently is contemporary. The style that's most prominent is contextual. But that doesn't mean you have to create within it, but having a general understanding of these allows you to appreciate them more. It also gives you a much richer understanding of the legacy that is left by the artists that created during these periods, and the artists that helped revolutionize certain art styles and techniques and stuff like that. And I definitely would suggest to anybody learn about art history, not from an academic perspective, but mostly because if you're an artist, having a general understanding of art history, even if it's just a period of art or an art style that you were most drawn to, it's definitely worth the pursuit of knowledge to understand that, to help benefit your own art style. And there's many ways that this can be done to benefit your art style, but undoubtedly through learning about the history of art, it will help benefit your own art style and your own art thoughts and ideas and different things to paint or draw or create. And all of that can be so beneficial to you. So I definitely suggest trying to learn a little bit about art history, but only if it piques your interest. There's no point learning about something that doesn't pique your interest. So I definitely think that it's a essential foundation for not just artists, but art enthusiasts and people who are interested in art in general. Learning a little bit about this is so beneficial to help and secure the richness and diversity of art and culture. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little episode. If you did, a review and a 5-star rating would be fantastic. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next time.